Welcome to the Mystic Millionaire podcast, where wealth is energy, success is a mindset, and abundance is your birthright. I am Danielle Amos, your host and mentor, here to help you unlock prosperity, embody confidence, and manifest a life you love. Take a breath, align with your truth, and let's manifest millions. From orchestrating PR campaigns for icons like Elton John and Alicia to building 5 thriving businesses from scratch, Tiffany Napper knows a thing or two about defying expectations. After leaving her high-profile music industry career, this serial entrepreneur launched a successful PR and branding agency, co-working space, and stadium-approved handbag line before discovering her true passion, empowering entrepreneurs. Her journey from a front desk receptionist to a self-made millionaire taught her firsthand about both spectacular success and burnout, lessons she now shares as a keynote speaker, challenging the hustle culture. Today, as a sought-after business consultant, Tiffany is on a mission to empower female founders to build profitable and scalable businesses without sacrificing their health and happiness along the way. I'm honored to introduce Tiffany to all of you. We talk about resiliency and we get real honest about the way that we were programmed to show up, people pleasing others in this episode. You're absolutely going to love connecting with her here. Be sure to follow her socials, to go in and ask her questions and share what resonates with her. And if this if this episode resonates, share it with others. This conversation's deep and quite profound and life-changing if you lean back and listen. Thanks for being here. It's an absolute honor to have Tiffany Napper in the studio today. Welcome to the Mystic Millionaire podcast.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
We have now so many mutual friends. I've been told about you. And people have asked, do you have Tiffany on your show? They know that I'm in town. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
It's an honor.
Mm-hmm. For sure. I knew we were going to be soul sisters immediately before I even met. I was like, oh, this is going to be a great Friday.
Thank you. So we were just talking behind the scenes. So for our listeners, they know that we have a subscriber. So Mystic Millionaires in the Making, they're called. And so we did some behind the scenes for you. And we get a little bit personal, at least I do. And so you'll have a chance to listen to that. And let's dive in the podcast. So tell everyone about you. I know you're writing a book and that's due to come out in the next year or so. What got you here to be an expert in resiliency and also people pleasing? We're talking about that.
We'll talk about that. What got me here was I knew from a very young age that I was a little different from everyone around me. I grew up in a small town in Louisiana, southern parts of the United States, and I just always had this deep desire to make a big impact on the world. Now, at the time, I thought I was going to be a writer for a fashion magazine like Vogue or Mademoiselle or something like that. But I just knew that my life was bigger than the small town I was living in. And so you can fast forward all the way up till now, and I have taken every twist and turn you can imagine. I've trusted the polls. I've chased my dreams. I've gone to New York and to Nashville and to Florida, and I've been editor of papers and creative directors for big fancy music, manufacturer, and worked with Elton John. And I've done all these crazy things, and ultimately I found myself burnt out many, many times on the journey because unfortunately I never had a good role model to show me what it looks like to pace yourself.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure a lot of listeners can relate to that. Mm-hmm. So that burnout feeling and doing what you think you have to do for success.
And to be fair, 20 years ago, the landscape was a little different and you did have to hustle. And, I was told often that I was replaceable, literally told often I was replaceable in the music industry. It's
competitive.
Commodity, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I say all that to share that it was all of the lessons and all of the dreams I chased along the way that inevitably led me to becoming a business consultant in 2020 after having run 4 of my own successful businesses. And I woke up the other morning and I was stretching, doing yoga. I'm a big yogi. And I was in pigeon pose, my favorite pose. And I just had this download. I was like, oh, I get to wake up every day and help people be their best selves. That's what I do for a living.
Isn't that awesome?
How amazing is that? So that's what I do now, and I love it.
What were those 4 businesses?
So I had a PR and branding agency for a decade. I also had a handbag line. I was the first to make stadium-approved handbags.
Okay, is that the clear bags? Okay, so I went to Taylor Swift here, actually, in Atlanta. Oh, not in Atlanta, Nashville. It was in Atlanta with Jake, with our daughters a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And I had no idea what they were talking about. So that...
Yep, I was the
That's
first to do
amazing.
it before, when the NFL was behind the scenes kind of making these decisions. I caught wind, and I immediately went to my closet and measured all my bags, and none of them fit. And I immediately went online and started searching for cute, clear handbags.
Yeah.
You know, see this comment I made earlier where I thought I wanted to work for a fashion magazine. Like, I like fashion, and I was like, I don't know, there's nothing cute on the internet that's clear. Anyway, I ended up finding this gal in California and I sketched on a piece of paper like what I thought it would look like, how I thought it could be cute. And I found this girl on eBay because she was making these little wallets and doodads out of PVC.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, you used the material already. If I sent you a little sketch of a purse, could you try to make that for me? And she was like, sure. So I prototyped with the gal I found on eBay.
Amazing.
And the next thing you know, the NFL is buying handbags from me, and I am mass manufacturing all of these bags. And so,
And with that girl in California, or did you
no,
have
it
to find...
evolved.
Yeah.
She was with me probably for a year, and then eventually I found a handbag manufacturer in New Jersey, because I wanted to keep them made in the USA. But
Yeah, great.
anyway, so I had that for 5
That's
years.
incredible. I love that.
It was a great run. It was really fun.
And did you sell that company, or?
I didn't. I almost sold that company to
Yeah.
my business consultants, actually. My business coach at the time wanted to buy it from me, and we went round and round about it. And Zach and I still have a great relationship, but at the end of the day, he wanted me to still be the face of the company. And I was really, at that point, this was the height of my burnout, and I was ready to burn it down. I was ready to walk away. So I did not. We just liquidated, sold all the inventory, and walked away. But I had that. I had a co-working space for creatives, and then I had a short-term Airbnb property rental for a decade. And obviously now my career is business consulting and keynote speaking.
Amazing. And I can completely see how all of those businesses contribute to what you do now and how you help and serve people. I love that.
Yeah.
I've heard from so many guests about burnout. That's been a key word that every woman that I've interviewed so far has used.
Yep.
What did your burnout look like? And also saying that they want to burn down their business. Like, it's pretty, because we work so hard, and then there's a day where it's like, this fucking sucks.
This is not what I thought I wanted. I've had many tangos with burnout, 2 when I was in the corporate world. And then, of course, I carried it with me on my back, into my entrepreneurial ventures. And so my first 2 burnout moments were, I went through Hurricane Ivan. I was the editor of a paper, and I got hit by Hurricane Ivan in Florida. I lost everything.
Oh, wow.
And I was responsible for a weekly paper. And in the height of disasters, guess what becomes the most important piece of thing? Like, the paper. So it wasn't like I could just take a day off. It was like, oh, you lost everything, and we have a deadline to meet. So through that process, and there were some other things going on that I'm not ready to share just yet, but they will be in the book. Other personal things going on during that time as well that really took me out. And so I would say that was my first tango with burnout. I ended up being replaced by 3 people to do that job.
Okay, so that tells you a lot.
Yeah. But unfortunately, I didn't learn my lesson, because fast forward, and I was working at Yamaha, a company I still adore to this day, creative director, PR, social media management. I was traveling the world, interviewing all these celebrities. It was amazing, but I was overextending myself. And when I finally walked away from them, they replaced me with 3 people.
Oh my goodness.
I wish I was making this up.
Okay, so this is interesting, because that's very much part of what I call paradigms. So my audience is going to understand that the way that you were programmed. We were talking about the people pleasing and why you're such a people pleaser, where you come from. And you can, isn't it fascinating? Twice it happened. You quit and you were replaced with 3 people.
Yeah.
That's like a huge wake-up call.
Yeah.
Did you take it?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I left Yamaha they ended up and started my PR agency. They ended up becoming one of my first clients.
Amazing.
And so it was a beautiful relationship that now I had some control over those dynamics. But as I mentioned earlier, a year after launching my PR agency, I was now also running a co-working space and a handbag line. So here I am, the number 3, running 3 businesses at one time. And this was my wake-up call.
Wow.
This was the moment where I was driving down the street. And if anyone listening has been to New Orleans, Louisiana, I'll tell you I was driving down St. Charles Avenue, which is this beautiful avenue in the middle of New Orleans, like giant oak trees. It's gorgeous. Our streetcar goes down the middle of it. It's quaint. It's beautiful. You shouldn't be stressed driving down St. Charles Avenue. But I was on my way to the office, and I was so stressed out that I didn't recognize myself. And I remember I was really like, my patience was thin. I was kind of like getting in these fights with my mother, who is my best friend. And she was kind of calling me out, but I didn't like it. And so I was irritable, is I think the best word I would use to describe myself. It's my number 1 sign that I'm out of alignment, is when I become irritable, because that is not who I am as a person. And I just couldn't take it anymore. I was like, this is not me. I haven't been to yoga in years. My garden is in dead.
Years.
I had not gone to yoga.
Girl. Yeah.
My garden, which I loved, was just a shriveled up mess in my backyard. Like, I had let everything else go to pour everything into these businesses, and I lost myself in that journey. So that was my ultimate burnout wake-up call, where I joke that I went on my own eat, pray, love Bali experience minus the love part. But I did. I was just out of a divorce at that point in time, because I tried to put a Band-Aid on my problems and married a narcissist.
Oh gosh. Okay. So we got a few things in common. Okay.
And when that came down crumbling around me, I said, the only way I'm going to get myself back into a good position is if I put myself in a completely different place. And so I shut down the co-working space.
Yeah.
That's when I decided I was going to sell the handbag line or close it up.
Yeah.
Let go of all my employees at the PR agency.
Wow.
Packed my tiny little, I had a little Fiat convertible at the time. Packed my tiny little Fiat convertible, me and my dog, and whatever would fit, and came back to Nashville to enroll in yoga teacher training.
Wow.
And I remember my business consultant at the time was like, what are we doing, Tiffany? And I was like, I don't know, Zach, but I know that I need to take care of myself. And what does a high performer do? But she doesn't just go to yoga. She doesn't.
Get certified. Come on.
But it was the best. I knew I needed to do something extreme.
Yeah.
Because I was in an extreme situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I don't think I answered your question.
Well, no, I don't even know what my question was now, but that's good. How long ago was this?
That was 2016.
Okay.
17. Sometimes I get it confused.
Yeah.
I think it was 2016 when I got married. 2017 when I packed up and moved back up here.
So you were married a year?
Less than a year.
Less than a year.
Mm-hmm.
Good for you for recognizing that, because my relationship was 18 years.
I hear that story a lot. I was quote unquote lucky because I met him in November, engaged by February, married in March, went to Europe for the summer because he was French. And by June, I said, I'm done. This is the most toxic couple of months I've ever experienced in my life. But the wake-up call was my mom said, you've cried more in the last 3 months than you've cried in your entire life. I called her every day crying.
Wow.
Every day.
Good on your mom.
abuse was
Like amazing.
That was my wake-up call in that moment because I was trying to rationalize it.
Yeah. Fuck. I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel really...
And you feel like you're the problem.
Oh, 100%.
You know, and that you're crazy.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
All the time.
I mean, that's a whole other conversation that I'm probably not prepared to have.
Yeah. I will say I was already I was 37 years old at the time. So I think if I'd been 27 or, I might would have stuck around a little longer.
Yeah.
But at that point in my life, I was good. Like I was stable. I had been an entrepreneur now for 7 years at that point. Like my tolerance for letting someone knock my entire world upside down was probably pretty low.
Yeah.
I was just not, I was like, no, this isn't happening.
You had a boundary. That's amazing.
So I had a pretty strong boundary. But anyway, that was probably 2017 was when I decided to make it my year of chasing happiness, basically. And I blogged about it. And so to answer, I think one of your questions was tools.
Yeah.
And so that year was my year of experimentation. Like,
Okay.
what does it look like if I just devote myself to becoming happy again? And so I don't remember what every month was. If you Google me, you'll probably find the old blog post on my blog. But I remember I spent a month, or, it was always 21-day challenges. So 7 months of 21-day challenges is how I structured it.
Amazing.
So there was a month where it was get on my yoga mat every day. There was a month where it was say 3 things you're grateful for every day. I mean, these aren't rocket science,
Yeah.
but this is what it takes. It's not that it's hard, but it is hard to implement
Yeah,
on a
it's
repeatable
simple.
basis. Yeah.
And yet
Yeah.
hard.
There was a month where I did like a pretend like you're on vacation every day for 21 days.
Cool. I love that.
There was, I don't remember what all of them were, but those 3 for sure I remember vividly. And there was a month where I was working on my money mindset. I realized I had some limiting beliefs around money and abundance. And so I did a 21-day challenge on that. Still talk about that to say, because it changed everything for me.
Yeah.
But it was a process of finding what worked for me. And now to this day, I have things like I still do 3 things I'm grateful for every day. I don't get on my yoga mat every day, but I'm in hot yoga class at least once a week, So eventually the habits stick and you find like, oh, meditating every day really works for me. Journaling, maybe not so much, or vice versa, right? But I think you have to experiment, because I think everybody's journey is different.
Yeah, absolutely. And you don't really know until you try. And I also find that different seasons for me require different tools.
Sure.
And so having the tool belt where I'm familiar with all of them, like this one, I'm not sure. And like trusting, I have tattooed "Trust Yourself" on my arm. This is
Love it.
through this, but trusting myself in finding the right tool and using it to move myself through. Amazing. Let's talk about resilience. So I love this topic, and we were behind the scenes talking about how I'd like to find a way to rise without being the phoenix rising. So without the impact of the event, or feeling like I'm at like the end, like there's no way to go because I'm at that wall, but up. This is my own contemplation right now. Like, what would that look like? What drives me? And for me, I think a lot about desire, like making sure that my desire and purpose, like we were talking about, is stronger and not needing that event. Talk to me about your experience with resilience, and perhaps if you're comfortable, some of the events that you've experienced in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And more about this book.
Yeah. I feel, it sounds so cliche, but I do feel like every obstacle, every hardship I've experienced in my life was part of my journey for a reason. We hear this all the time, but I fully believe that for me, I went through everything I've gone through, even with the burnout stories, all of my hardships, for a reason. And so resiliency for me is this muscle that I know I've been flexing for many, many years. And there's been definitely seasons where in the moment I'm like, I really don't want to be flexing this muscle right now, of course. But in hindsight, I can look back and go, oh, look at me now, right? And now I might be ready to inspire somebody, or I might be able to pass this wisdom along to someone. But I've been through a lot of hardships, and I'll just skim a few and we'll get to the more recent ones. But the ones that always stick out on my map is Hurricane Ivan, when I lost everything and I was young, 27, 26 years old, lost everything, didn't have renter's insurance. FEMA didn't come in to help, okay, here we are back at ground zero. The next year got hit by Hurricane Katrina, lost everything else, my car, my home. And so that
convertible.
it was a different convertible, but it was a little Volkswagen convertible. She was flooded. And so that was a pretty tumultuous time in my life. And then fast forward, and my whole house was robbed by someone I knew who let in someone who's on the FBI list. That's a whole nother story. But they pulled up a moving truck into my backyard and unloaded my house in the middle of the night.
Wow.
So these moments where everything is stripped away from me, every bit of safety, every bit of comfort, and you're just left with you, I think has catapulted me from the perspective of like, oh, she's so resilient. Yeah, I've been through some stuff, right? And then more recently, I was sharing that within about a 2-year span, I lost my grandmother, my grandfather, and my dad. And my dad was a very sudden, unexpected death. He was only 65 years old. And so it was a real shock to the system. And it was a few days after that, I had been down with my mom in Alabama, and my dad didn't want a funeral. So it was a very different process when you don't have a funeral. It's like you're lacking some sort of closure almost, right? So I'm driving back up from South Alabama to Nashville because I was supposed to be hosting like a little coaching circle for a community of women here. And I remember one of my oldest friends, Margaret, called me and she was like, "How do you do it? Like, you're so resilient. How do you do this?" And at the time, I just light bulb moment for me that this is the book I'm supposed to write. And I'm supposed to tell the story of every step I've taken, every time I've gotten knocked down, and how I've found my way back to joy and my way back to purpose.
And we were talking about what it means to be resilient, because I think some people out there think, or they for themselves call themselves resilient, but they're brushing it under the rug. They're not allowing themselves to feel. So they just like get back up on the horse and really proud of that. And then there's an impact, a decade later or longer, where their feelings impact their body and those unresolved issues come back.
Yeah, if you've never read A New Earth, or A New Awakening. Is it A New Earth or New Awakening? Now I just forgot.
Yeah, I'm not
I
sure.
think it's A New Earth, an awakening to something. Great book where he talks about your pain bodies that you carry around. And that was the book I read in 2016 when I was going through that. I was like, something's got to give. I'm going to go to yoga, go get in yoga teacher training. I was also reading that book about your pain body that you carry around and how if you stuff your feelings in the closet, they're going to come back to haunt you. And so one of the things, I cringe as it may be, I've definitely cried on the internet before. And people always message me and like, they're always saying, it's so amazing to see how vulnerable you are. And I'm like, look, for me, it's important that I feel my feelings because I didn't used to. And it's also really important that I inspire one more person to see that in this world where we're so hyper tuned into social media and we're seeing, the highlights, it's important that you see that behind every big success and win and story is something that might look a little bit more familiar to you, right? Where I'm feeling things and I'm going through things.
Yeah. And the truth is we're never not going through things. Yeah.
Yeah. As long as you are trying to become a better person every day, which I imagine anyone listening to this podcast is, you're always going through something.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. Yeah. So we also, there's something else actually, I want to bring it back.
Okay.
As in my own journey, as I think about the Phoenix rising scenario and how I can rise without the circumstances. Like, I agree with so much. Like, I know that the obstacles and the stretchy points are what catapult us forward. And like, I'm grateful for those. And every person that I know that's successful has gone through a lot of shit, a lot of stuff. And like, let's riff a little bit on this, perhaps this idea, because we don't want to lose our resiliency muscle. And we also know that the most amount of growth comes from obstacles. We can call them opportunities. And we are given exactly what we can handle. So for those of us that are here for a huge impact and have a big purpose, which I believe you and I are, and many of our listeners are, then because of that, the game we're playing here on Earth, we're fit to handle all those things that come at us, right? And I've said before, I kind of feel like I'm Wonder Woman, with the big bracelets like this. Yeah. And like, I don't shy away from it.
Yeah.
And I remember asking, like, about 2 years ago, I declared, like, I'm ready for my next up level. Like, give it to me. I'm like, ooh, okay. Like, do you think that there is a way, like, do we always need to manifest the obstacles, or is there a world in which human beings can grow through desire, or are we,
I hear what you're saying, and I do believe that there is a way to grow without the obstacles. And I feel like there's a caveat here, which is like, and I also think if we're realistic, we know that even without the fire, so to speak, even without the drama, there are going to be things that are happening around us that we are going to have to respond to, good or bad. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is like, yes, and.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that
and.
too.
Yeah.
And it's almost like we don't want to manifest the problems.
Right.
Like, right? So it's not that. And it's a willingness and a knowing that whatever happens
Yeah.
is happening for us and that we got this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I think now if I think about the opportunities that arise in my life, like a few months ago, I lost my 17-year-old puppy and she was my everything. And she'd been with me since I was 27 years old. So she's been with me through, every giant step I've taken into entrepreneurship, the launching of every business, like every move, she's been there. So losing her felt like a tremendous hole in my life. But I was remarkably proud of myself for my ability to not let it derail me in a way that I thought it would. I remember writing and texting two of my best friends at the time, and I was like, my concern is that this is going to take me out, because I remembered losing another dog, almost 20 years earlier, and it took me out. I remember crying at the copying machine. I worked for Yamaha at the time, and I remember going into the office and making copies and literally bawling my eyes out because I just couldn't get over the grief and the hole in my heart. And with my dog's name is Nola, and with the passing of Nola, I have been remarkably resilient. Am I sad? Absolutely. Do I have moments where I miss her and it guts me? Every day. But it is remarkable how I don't feel like it. I didn't feel like it had to be this giant thing that I had to experience. It was just like, oh, this is life now. And what am I going to do differently now that I have freedom for the first time in 17 years and I don't have to carry a dog up and down the stairs and don't have to put diapers on her. And like, it had gotten pretty, she was 17.
What kind of dog?
She was a toy poodle.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But I guess for me, I think we do progress and it does become less of a fanfare and more of just a evolution.
Yeah.
Like a quiet evolution.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Talk to me about some of the tools that you use to be resilient and you teach your clients to use, and perhaps what's coming up in the book.
Yeah.
In our community, our listeners are familiar with using some of our mental muscles. So I like to talk about staying in control no matter the outside circumstances, that we all have events and circumstances in our life that we manifest and attract, and we have a decision for the event to control us, or we can control it and respond instead of react.
Yeah.
Does that resonate?
I love that. That's beautiful. I kind of have it divided up into some sections. So I'm going to focus on the first two sections of the resiliency journey because that's where we all start. And the first section is in allowing, and the second section is in receiving. So allowing is what we've touched on a little bit already, but step one, allow yourself to feel your feelings. Don't pretend like they don't exist. Step two,
which is not that easy, by the way. It's simple, but how many people are afraid of their feelings? Afraid of what's going to happen. And will I come back from this if I really feel it? Like they might put me in a straitjacket, I
understand. I also think we have, as a society, shamed the art of crying.
Art of crying. Let's just repeat that. Yeah. Amazing, Tiffany. Yeah.
And what I've noticed is, and this happened with my dad passing, the morning I showed up for that coaching session, I sat in the car and I had the moment, the feelings, the wave of feelings overcame me. And I was like, I can try not to cry because I did my makeup, or I can just let these feelings pass through me. And so I cried. It did not last more than 5 minutes. And as soon as I was done, I was like, I feel ready now.
Yeah.
And so when we master the art of crying and we realize that on the other side of feeling our feelings is sweet relief, I think it will open you up to letting yourself just try it. Just try it.
Yeah.
Have some tears flow and notice how you feel afterward.
The sweet relief. That's a beautiful statement.
Yeah.
I sometimes watch really sad movies or sappy movies to cry. My daughter and I will do it. And they're usually about dogs, actually.
Of course.
Yeah. A Dog's Life. Do you know that one?
Yes, of course.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, I can't watch any of those right now.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And it just letting it flow and how good it feels to be in and allow yourself to feel it.
Yeah. It's probably why I'm so devoted to my yoga practice, because if you think about it, yoga at the end of the day is about getting all of the feelings and energy out so that you can be in that moment of stillness, shavasana, right?
Yeah.
And I think, and you know, the movement is designed to help us. We always say you keep your feelings in your hips, and so stretch your hips. And it sounds woo, but it's real. There's scientific proof behind this. And so I think that's why I'm such a big fan of yoga. And I'll never forget, and this is going to be in the book as well. I tell this story, but so we lost my dad suddenly in his sleep at the age of 65. And at the end of the day, we believe it was his heart. And so when you get on a yoga mat after you've lost your dad to maybe like a heart attack, and the first thing they tell you to do is take a deep breath in and a deep breath out, I started bawling because I was like, wow, I'm so grateful for my breath right now.
Yeah.
And so I had told the instructor, I'm friendly with the owner of the studio, and I had said to her, I was like, I'm going in the back corner today, which I never do. I'm usually in the front row. She knows where I go. I was like, I'm going in the back corner today because I'm probably going to cry. But I did, and I, you know, I don't know. I don't get embarrassed by it anymore.
Good. So allowing.
Yeah.
Okay. Second step.
Oh gosh. After we've done all the allowing, we go into the receiving mode. And one thing I'll highlight here, because it's important, it's something I've had to learn how to do, and it's something that I'm also learning how to be better at, is how to ask for the support that you need, the help that you need, and receive it with grace. And then if someone around you is going through something challenging and you don't know what to do or say, how to offer, you know, in a way that feels easy for them to accept. Because if someone is grieving something, they just lost someone or something in their life and they're grieving something, sometimes we tend to be like, oh, I'm good, I don't need anything. And the reality is you do. You need something. You need people. So the receiving part of it is receiving what you need. There's a lot of work around, you know, new mindset shifts we can adapt, and looking for the growth opportunities, but also just as simple as tell people what you need. And if someone offers to bring you dinner, say yes, don't say no. And so there's a receiving part that, again, I think our culture has kind of lost in the sense that we're also disconnected from one another, where when we used to live in like these tight communities, it was just natural that you would take care of someone when they were going through something. And so I think it's our job now when we're going through something to let people know what we need. And it's also our job to educate ourselves on how to show up well for someone who's going through something. And I've definitely learned a lot through, you know, even through the loss of my father, I learned like, oh, when they did that, that felt really great. When they did that, it didn't feel very good. So next time someone I know and love loses someone close to them, I'm going to respond based on what felt really good to me. And I'll give a specific example, like someone saying, oh, I'm so sorry for your loss. Do you need anything? Is not helpful when you're overwhelmed with grief. But if someone says, I'm so sorry for your loss, I just dropped off dinner at your front porch, that's a beautiful way to support someone.
Talk to me about the difference. So do you need anything? Is it the extra stress of having to think of what?
Yeah.
I get
It's
that.
the extra stress. And even just, you know, I've definitely witnessed this. I have a good friend, and she was going through something, and I remember I was determined. I was like, I have a whole Sunday free. I want to be there for you. And I kept saying, what do you need? What do you need? And she was like, nothing. And I was like, okay. I was like, where's the closest Starbucks to you? I said, send me the address, meet me there. I'll be there in 20 minutes. And I just forced her hand because I knew she needed me, but I also knew she didn't know how to ask. And she didn't want to burden me. She was like, I'm not going to make you drive all the way across town. And I was like, I am in my car. And I will say, the roles shifted when I realized I was going to have to put my dog down. And I was sitting outside with her in my arms, and I was at the vet, and she called me that morning, and I told her what was going on. And I wasn't using my words very well. I think I just kept saying to her, it's the worst case scenario. It's the worst case scenario. And she's probably going, what does that mean? But for me, it was the worst case scenario. And she was like, where are you right now? And I was like, I'm just sitting in front of the vet. I can't drive right now because I'm crying. And she's like, but what vet do you go to? And I answered her, not really thinking anything of it. And we kept on the phone talking. And all of a sudden she goes, I'm going to come sit in the car by you. And I looked over, and she had pulled up in the parking lot next to me.
Wow.
And she just came and sat in the car with me and Nola. And I was like,
Holding space.
that is how you show up for someone.
Yeah.
I'm going to cry.
Yeah.
But so receiving.
Huge. Yeah. Yeah, it's huge. What a friend.
What a friend.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not like nothing that she had to buy or like it was holding space
They was
and
saying,
being
you're
there.
going through something and
Yeah,
this
I'm
matters.
here.
And yes, my life is busy, but I'm going to put something down for a minute and I'm going to come be there for you.
Recently, it's been about a year and a half, almost 2 years actually in May, that we lost my niece. She was 16. And my sister, so I can relate when you said it's challenging to know what you need. So that extra question, I could see the stress on my sister Stacy's face. Like people would want to talk to her, make sure that she's okay. But like engaging in that conversation, she just didn't have the capacity to do it. And it like the more questions, like, and so you're right. So just offering to like, I'm going to anticipate what you need and I'm going to bring it to you.
Yeah.
Was really helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you could get it wrong, but I promise, like whatever you deliver to someone in their time of need is going to be exactly what they need, you know? And so my easy button, I always tell people, I'm like, if you don't know what to do, send them an Uber Eats card or something that's just like, okay, now they get to press the easy button and order dinner tonight or something. But
so true.
But you know, I joke and it's not, I don't joke, but I say like when we lost my dad, I came home to just flowers everywhere. And as beautiful as it is, it's such a beautiful sentiment. My mom and I eventually were like, and then the flowers start to die. And now I have a burden of like changing out the water and like throwing them away. And like, it's just like, you know what I would have really loved? A smoothie.
Yeah.
Save yourself the $50 and send me a $10 smoothie. And it will, you know, but I think by default, we go to what we think, you know, initially someone says, oh, you send flowers. And I'm like, everybody else is going to send flowers. What else does this person need right now?
Yeah. Yeah, it's very true. And so many flowers in the home and there's so many people coming as well. Yeah.
That's a lot.
I think the flowers, it's just, you know, it's with the way, again, it's a programming, like we were programmed to think to do. And it's nice. And there are other things.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And,
there are other
you know, there's moments where I think our homework gets to be, what else can I do that might fill a need that's a little different, you know? I know there's still going to be lots of people who send flowers or donations or whatever, but like, if this is someone that's really dear to me, what do I know this person probably really needs right now?
Yeah. And understanding, like putting yourself in their shoes, right? To really understand and make a difference. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's switch gears.
Yeah.
People pleasing.
Yes.
So a people pleaser, we've got lots of those in our community. There's an impact to people pleasing.
Absolutely.
And let's dive in what it means to be a people pleaser and what's the opposite of pleasing people.
Ooh, I love that question. I'm like, what is the opposite? I mean, the obvious answer would be self-pleasing, but I don't think that's what we're going for when we talk about don't be such a people pleaser. So as I alluded, I'm from the South and there's like a Southern hospitality that's known that, you know, you're always accommodating and you're always available and you're always easy to be around and you never make a fuss or a mess or make noise, right? And this is just part of Southern culture for better or for worse. But it definitely showed me some areas of improvement as I started to go out into the world and try to climb the corporate ladder, and even more so when I became an entrepreneur. Because I realized that not making any noise means that now you get to be the one that they don't really worry about making upset because you're not going to say anything, or, you know, looking over because you didn't claim your worth ever. So, and then with my clients, I see people pleasing coming up in sales conversations quite a bit. And I'm like, what are we doing here? You know? And so it is a little bit of putting yourself first. That definitely is part of the equation. But I also think it's an ability to understand, how can I be firm and kind? Like, how can I know what I desire, know what I want, still treat people with respect, but not become a wet blanket, right? Like not be something that the doormat that they walk across.
So it's boundaries and the ability to communicate those boundaries with love. And it is putting yourself first, because if you don't put your oxygen mask on first, how do you support other people, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the impact of people pleasing? What was the impact for you?
Oh, I think the impact for me was definitely my journeys with burnout in corporate world, because had I used my voice and shared exactly what I was going through and shared when I felt overwhelmed or shared when I thought something felt unfair, or even just, patted myself on the back a few times like I saw so many men in rooms do without any issues, I think my journey would have looked very different. I didn't know what I didn't know, and I don't have any regrets.
Yeah.
This is what I mean when I say, like, I believe everything I've been through was for a reason. And now I mentor young women in college at Vanderbilt, and that's one of the first things I talk about is like, I need you to get good at using your voice. I need you to stand up for yourself. It's going to feel a little weird. We're not groomed to do this as women.
Yeah.
But I need you to toot your own horn.
What's their response to that?
Shyness,
Yeah.
always.
And like that idea, like I'm bragging, I can't. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's a delicate dance for sure, but confidence is the cure.
Confidence is the cure. Yeah. Okay. And how, if someone's not confident and they're not, like, they are programmed to be the good girl, not celebrate themselves because that's bragging. What do you do to help them? How do you help them become more confident and use their voice? What are those baby steps?
So it's funny because 2 nights ago I led an imposter syndrome workshop
Okay.
for this group of girls. And so I call it your imposter syndrome toolkit, but it works in people pleasing as well, because at the end of the day, that when we're building an imposter syndrome toolkit and we're trying to make sure that we're not living amidst our own self-doubt, it's confidence tools, right?
Yeah.
So one of the first things I teach is how to turn on your growth mindset.
Okay.
So looking for, if you say to yourself, oh, I can't do that, or I can't possibly use my voice, or I don't feel like I belong here. How do we turn that into something that is more empowering and turn that into, I use the word mantra or affirmation.
Yeah, I love, okay, that's,
Yeah.
I love
So instead of like, I don't belong here, it becomes, I'm exactly where I'm meant to be. I'm here to make a difference. Or, instead of like, I'm not good enough, it's like, I'm great. I'm more than good enough. I have all of the tendencies and skills needed to do whatever this is I need to do. So we put some of that in our toolkit.
Yeah.
We also, what I call it the You're So Fierce folder that you put on your phone or your computer. And it's just as an entrepreneur, it's usually testimonials of like people showing you that you're good at what you do. But in earlier years, I say, anytime a professor gives you a good review, anytime you get a good grade on your paper, anytime a friend tells you something nice about yourself, I want you to screenshot it or take a picture or whatever and put it in your You're So Fierce folder. And when you start to feel yourself second guessing your ability to take up space or use your voice, I just want you to go look through your You're So Fierce folder and be reminded that you are a badass.
I love that. That's such a good idea.
Yeah.
As often when we're in those spaces, we're looking for evidence. But because we're feeling that way, of course, the world, our 3D world, the universe is going to reflect back to us the limits that we're feeling, the doubts that we're feeling.
Yep.
So going to a place where you have the evidence that you're incredible
Yep.
is such a good idea.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm going to recommend that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we all have it. A couple of nights ago, I think it was Lady Gaga who gave a speech, and she said something along, I don't know exactly, I won't quote her exactly, but she said something along the lines of, anytime I walked into a room of men where I was the only woman, that was when my voice was the loudest.
Yeah.
And so she was talking about how, it was her own voice that she could either use as a barrier or as her biggest asset.
Yeah. And you decide.
And you decide.
Yeah. Amazing. And a lot of us don't know that we have the choice to change that voice.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's where, being in rooms of other women who are all working on that together so that you're not different. It's not you. You're not the problem. This is common. There was a study, I was doing some research before the workshop, and it was like 80% of women in undergrad studies face imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's huge.
It's huge.
So what else is in the toolkit for imposter syndrome? It's something that we talk a lot about in our community as I teach women how to rewrite their self-image so that they can show up a different way and really embody that.
Yeah.
And overcoming imposter syndrome is necessary because you will feel like an imposter as your next level self. There's no way you won't.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
One of the other things I share is dressing the part.
Love that. Of
I
course,
know.
with your fashion. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
Because it's not about dressing to impress others.
Yeah.
But we all know this. If you're sitting around at home and you're in like your comfiest, coziest sweats, you feel differently on a call than you would feel if you were a little bit more dressed up, a little bit, you put a little bit more effort into what you put on that day. And so, especially with this younger generation, it's like, if you're going into interviews and you're nervous, you're feeling intimidated, like when you feel confident in what you've put on your body, you will sit up a little taller, you will exude more confidence, and it is a game changer. So we talk a little bit about that, like dressing to impress.
I love that. Good in what looks good for your body type, like getting some recommendations, feedback,
Yeah. It's so easy nowadays to go on the internet and find someone who can help you, through a free quiz or through one personal, styling consultant lesson, and like learn how to dress for your body type
and don't wear anything that you don't feel good in. Like actually, and it doesn't matter if it's something like you're told you should wear because you're going to a conference or to school and you're supposed to wear a blazer or something. Like forget it.
Yeah. No.
Like ditch it. Yeah.
None of those rules.
Yeah.
apply.
Yeah. Totally. I'm with you.
Yeah.
What, any other tool?
I was like, gosh, what else do we put in the toolkit? I mean, I refer to our limiting beliefs as our toxic dragons.
Love it. Okay.
So one thing I did share was, if you think about Game of Thrones or some of these movies that have dragons in them, I'm like, what would happen if you pretended like the dragons didn't live around the corner? You wouldn't survive, right? So our limiting beliefs are those dragons, and we have to acknowledge them in order to tame them. And it's our job. It's our lifelong job to tame the dragons, because around every corner of your life, you might run into a new dragon. So it's like, okay, what am I doing to tame this dragon? And it's just thought reversal, right? It's like, okay, I hear you. You're making a lot of noise right now. You're telling me I'm not supposed to be in this room, but you don't run the show. You're just my toxic dragon. I'm going to tame you. I'm going to put you in the passenger seat. You don't get to drive today. So we talk about taming the toxic dragon.
Okay. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because we all have the voice.
We all have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's louder. And sometimes we get down.
And then sometimes you wake up and you're like, oh my gosh, I haven't heard that voice in so long. I think the voice is actually tame.
Yeah. And then you go out for your next level and there's like a different dragon.
Always. Always.
Which is amazing. I love that.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you. Any last words of wisdom for our audience before I go into the 3 questions, the 3 rapid fire questions for you?
Okay. I think my last bit of wisdom would be, since we've talked so much about limiting beliefs and resiliency and doubts and all of this, I would say to one of my favorite phrases that I still tell myself to this day is doubt your doubts.
Doubt your doubts. It's good.
Yeah. So don't let anything stand in your way. If you hear a limiting belief, something going on in your mind, it's like, doubt your doubts.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you ready?
Ready.
All right. So 3 questions.
Okay.
First one is abundance in 1 word. Go.
Oh my God. So much pressure. Abundance in 1 word. Unlimited.
Amazing. Second is, as the Mystic Millionaire, I'd like to ask you if you have a millionaire mindset, guilt-free pleasure that is an absolute non-negotiable for you.
It would be getting massages.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. I used to give myself so much guilt over spending money on something like that. And now I'm like, nope, this is part of my elevation. I'm also an introvert. So I know after I do a big event, it's like, Tiffany's going to go get a massage.
Yeah.
And this is how she gets back to center.
Love it. Do you have a favorite spa in
I do. I have the Lotus Room in Nashville, which is owned by one of my clients and friends. So,
okay, good. We'll check it out. Jake and I also love massages.
Okay.
So that's good.
Ayurvedic massages.
Okay.
Get the oil on your forehead and you will be in heaven.
Okay, love it. Thank you. Third question. You only have 1 book to read for the rest of your life.
Oh, this is easy.
Okay.
The Simple Abundance.
Oh, I know that. It's pink. Yeah.
I read it over and over and over and over and over again.
And it's the book that has 1 day,
One
right?
day
1 day for
per
a year. Yeah. That had an impact on me.
If you're on a journey to finding your authentic self, that's
Yeah.
what the book is about. But also if you're just on a journey to cultivating more happiness, which I've talked to about a little bit already today, do yourself a favor, get the Simple Abundance. And even if you skip a few, just let it go with you. You don't have to be diligent every single day, although it's amazing. The first time I read it every day for 365 days.
Good.
But now it sits on my stand where my journals are. Every morning I go, I sit there, I journal. I might read a page from Simple Abundance. I have a stack of books there, so I'll pick the book that feels good. But I'm on a Simple Abundance kick right now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Tiffany, thank you. Thank you for sharing your story and your wisdom
My pleasure.
and being vulnerable with us and resilient with us.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.